Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my guest this morning, all the way from Toronto for what I'm excited. It's going to be a really, really fun phone call. The lovely and the talented Miss Tatiana de Abreu. How are you, Tatiana?
Good morning, Tyler. I'm doing super well. How are you?
I am so good. We randomly met, and all my audience knows I always start. I was at an event. I think it was right after the Toast event in Calgary back in September.
Yep.
And it was 9:00. I was like, I'm done with this event. I'm leaving. I'm going home. And all of a sudden, I think it was Ali Noel said, "Hey, Tyler, you need to meet this firecracker of a human being." 45 minutes later, I learned about your business. I got to know you. We had a fabulous conversation. I love those random bump-ins, especially when I think you were maybe on the same track. We were both heading for the door.
Yes,
boom, and we got stalled in what was a super fun conversation.
Oh my goodness, I remember that because that was, the Toast conference was all day. We were the sponsored beverage and whatnot, and then I went to the after party, and as you're putting your coat on and saying your goodbyes, and she said, wait, Tyler just walked in, you have to go say hi. I'm like, okay, what's one more person? 45 minutes later, I'm like, well, we should probably head out now.
That was so fun. And I love, as everyone knows, I love learning about businesses. I love running into, I love high energy people. We joked earlier. Yep. It was like talking to a mirror. We just stood there and kind of yelled at each other for 45 minutes, enthusiastically, not aggressively, to be clear.
Of course.
But you are the founder at Sunday Funday Beverages. So I will take no attempt at explaining because I have the founder here. Let us into the tent. What are you guys all about? What do you do? And then let's unpack the beverage industry, being a founder who maybe didn't come from the beverage background. So many things that make this a really cool story.
Oh, thank you. So in a nutshell, Sunday Funday Beverages is Canada's first premium, female-founded, Canadian-made canned mimosa. So we're 90 calories, 1 gram of sugar, 4% alc, gluten-free, and real orange juice. That's us. Yeah.
I have not tried one because now I feel like I'm missing out. I didn't go search it out before. I usually do. So now I feel, even though it's 9 a.m, I feel like this is a breakfast drink. Is it not? No, sorry.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm
with a name like Sunday
AM
Funday.
drinking. Sunday Funday.
No. So Sunday Funday mimosas.
How long have you been doing this?
Oh my goodness. So since the idea came to me, it's been 4 years now, which is insane because it feels like just yesterday. I'm sure lots of your guests say this, but 4 years ago, I'll take you back. It was August 2020. And so I'm based in Toronto. And so we have the fabulous LCBO where we buy all of our liquor. Mm-hmm. And I was headed to a, friend's birthday. It was on the island. So exciting. And I thought, you know what? It starts relatively early, 10:30 or so. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go pick up canned mimosas. Went to the LCBO. Couldn't find them, of course, and went to the cash register and he said, you know what, miss, this isn't a product in the LCBO or in Ontario or actually in Canada. And so you alluded to it earlier. I don't come from the beverage world. I come from tech and my background is sales and marketing. And so you can imagine all the little alarms going off in my head of, what do you mean this isn't a product? Wait, hold up. What? It's come on, it's champagne, it's orange juice. It can't be that hard. 4 years later, it's very difficult. But I went to this event. I think I picked up, White Claw or whatnot. But the whole time at this party, I was like, oh my goodness, could this be it? So I went home, as every normal person does. And in my little office in my tiny Toronto condo, I have glass doors, which I also use as kind of a whiteboard. And whiteboarded this whole idea.
Mad scientist whiteboard. Yeah.
100% post-it notes, sketches of, what the brand would look like, all of that. And so, that was how it all started.
That's amazing. I love it. The classic, not even you saw a need, you had a need. This has got to be a cat. And is this product available? You were very specific about not available in Canada. Had you encountered this product in other markets, so hence why you just expected? Or do we just live in a world that if we think of something, we just assume it's already there?
So I had assumed this was a thing. And then until that gentleman saying, this isn't in Canada. And that's when I started doing some Googling, whatnot, and doing some research, making sure this was not a product. I think they had some sort of bottled version of a very high sugar mimosa, if you will. Not really in stock quite often. It was a brand that no one had really heard of. And so there was a bit of that one. But otherwise in Canada, we had nothing. And so when I looked at the States, they had about, I think at the time, one brand had just emerged, which actually, funny enough, just sold for undisclosed amount a few months ago.
All right. Okay.
Very big Mimosa brand. But otherwise, it wasn't a lot. And so for me, when you think about the canned beverage world, especially when you walk the aisles of LCBO, the majority, it's changing now, but the majority was vodka sodas. And so it wasn't that big of a surprise when I heard that. But when you and I chatted about it, of, well, it's a mimosa. It's a really good drink, and it's a common drink. So that part was surprising. But then when you think about the market itself, I thought, okay, maybe, there is a gap here.
How many moments of, okay, but am I going to fill this gap? Because there's the journey you went on, there's the brainstorming, there's the Googling, but there's a really big next step of, I'm going to start taking this forward. Because there's many of us that's like, oh shit, I had that idea 3 years ago and someone else did it. Well, yeah, you had the idea, but you stopped there. Mm-hmm. And ideas, not that they're not important, but execution is really the difference maker. So talk to me even about, because you don't come from an entrepreneurial world, you come from a world of hustle. You're marketing your sales for tech, you're out there, you're doing it. So I think there's no question, looking at your resume, quote unquote, LinkedIn, there was certainly an appetite for making shit happen, if I may be so bold.
Oh, yes.
And also getting to know you a very little bit so far. But talk to me a little bit about that transition, because so many people may be listening going, yeah, I had an idea, but that was a year ago and I haven't done anything with it. It's still sitting on a sketch pad. So talk to us a little bit about the next step.
Absolutely. And that's everyone's favorite question. They're like, Tatiana, but how did you get to making something? And so for me, and I think back and I'm like, who did I think I was? Honestly, the next day, so when I was whiteboarding everything, I said, okay, how do I actually make this a product? And so for me, honestly, just thinking, okay, well, what do I think I need as someone who doesn't know how to put a drink together, a canned beverage? And so, for example, I use real orange juice. Okay, so let's Google orange juice providers, because we know we don't have, have that in Canada. So, okay, they're all in California, Florida, whatnot. And so started in between my day job, which we'll get into a bit more, in between meetings, just started cold calling, because I have that sales background. So I started cold calling companies that imported orange juice, and just asking questions, and, hey, little fake it till you make it, a little, I can't share my business name yet, and, I'll have to send you an NDA. I don't know what I was doing. And just saying, hey, we actually...
I love a little espionage, a little play. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And just a lot of like, hey, we shortlisted your company for our provider, whether it's citric acid, it's orange juice, what have you. We just want to hear more. How do you work with vendors? How do you ship your product? Remember, I have no idea. They're telling me it comes in barrels. We're doing this, that, and how many gallons. And I have a second screen, and I'm starting to Google furiously, but all the buzzwords are using this and that. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to share this with my team. I can't answer any of those questions right now. I will get back to you, and I'll let you know what they say.
Well played. I love it.
Thank you. So this started to build, and to your comment earlier of, a lot of people have these ideas, and then, it's the execution part. And so I tell people this took 4 years, but the first 2 years was a lot of imposter syndrome. Absolutely, Tyler. But also I was working in tech, and there would be days or really nights I would spend time on this, and I would go between, there was two modes. First mode is, heck yeah, this is so cool. Like I stumbled upon a great idea. And then the second mode was, who do I think I am? What are we, girl? Go bake banana bread like everyone else. I think, it was COVID still, kind of. I'm like,
yeah, that's true. That was during COVID.
Hobby.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Go do something else like everyone else. And so that's why I think the first 2 years could have been done in less time, because it was this back and forth. And so the start of last year is, I had this, come to Jesus moment with myself, the self-talk of, Tatiana, either we put our money where our mouth is, or you stop this, because I hadn't produced anything. And so at this point, I was looking to buy a condo in Toronto, and then, realized that's not possible. As a single income buyer, and I wanted to stay in the city, which is hilarious. Maybe one day. And so I said, you know what? Let's use some of that down payment. Let's do a small batch and see what happens. Okay. So, and there's a lot of steps in between that. So I know I jumped the gun there, but in terms of going back to cold calling, ingredients and producers and whatnot, but also as I'm meeting with people, one of my favorite questions is, if we chatted about maybe the process of putting a drink together, I'd say, Tyler, I'm newer in the industry. Is there anyone else I should be speaking to? We're looking at doing X, Y, Z. And what I've learned is this community is so inclusive. They want you to win, and people are like, oh my goodness, absolutely, you should go talk to X, Y. Have you spoken to X, Y, Z? What about ABC? And so that's slowly how I started building this network because, like you said, I come from tech. You need an introduction to anyone that works at any tech company in Canada? Done. But this world, I had no
Yeah.
one to turn to. So that was also a really cool way to build this network and a great way that people I still talk to that I met those early days and people, big co-packers who still check in with me of, hey, I saw you launched in Alberta. That's you, right? I'm like, oh my goodness, you remember me? Yeah. Yeah, that's me. So yeah, it's been a huge journey.
I really appreciate your comment about how inclusive that community is, because
Mhm.
oftentimes things feel very inclusive when you're already on the inside. Oh my God, yeah, the tech
Yes.
scene in Calgary is so inclusive. And I've had newcomers to Canada or newcomers to Calgary go like, yeah, once you're
Uh-huh.
over the wall, but when you're on the outside of the
Yes.
wall, it can look pretty high and pretty scary to try to get in. And
Yes.
you came in with no credibility from an industry perspective, but you definitely,
Correct.
there was a lot, I can definitely hear the fake it. You literally faked it to you, man. I'll have to send you an NDA. I have to discuss with my team. Like I love it because you put yourself in a position to continue to be able to keep having the conversation with them. Like it keeps it open, right? Mhm.
Yes. No, absolutely. And
Which
I
is a
think
good
also
sales. That's your sales background right there.
just a little,
Yeah,
but
no
the one
doubt.
thing too with the imposter syndrome too is when I'd start talking to people and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, is this have you built beverages before? Do you come from CPG?" And it was a little of, actually, no, I do this in my free time. This is the tech company I work at. And so that's why there was a lot of fake it till you make it, but also why I leaned into this community and building it so much because people that believed in the idea, there were a lot of doubters and a lot of, oh,
Of
really?
course.
Are you just bored? Or, what are you doing? It was a lot of
Get a
what are you doing
dog, get a
here
cat. Like,
most.
what are you doing?
Yeah. Get another cat, Tatiana.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
get out of
yeah.
here.
I didn't imply that you already had cats. I was not going to make that joke. I was not.
Yeah, I understand, but
How
thank you.
did you, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it, but you touched on imposter syndrome, and I think it's great. One
Yes.
of my favorite jokes is, 75% of people admit it, 25% of people lie about it kind of thing, imposter syndrome.
Yes, yes.
So, but there's having imposter syndrome and then there's moving forward anyways. And that can often be mistaken from the outside of like, oh, well, you don't have any self-doubt because you went forward. It's like, no,
Hmm.
I did. I just went forward anyways. Any thoughts or just kind of shares for anyone listening around what was your formula for like, yep, I feel this way. It's uncomfortable. F it, I'm going forward anyways, and we're going to do it. And from the outside, that often looks like unbridled confidence, but inside,
Correct.
it's not always the case. I don't know. I'm not projecting. Just
100%.
curious what your
I don't
strategy is,
know.
what was and is around that.
No, that's a fantastic question. I still struggle with it today. But I would say the first few years were very, very difficult. I'd be in calls and people, super interested about the business, and I'm just sitting there thinking, someone's gonna call me out. Someone know. They know I don't
they're
belong
gonna they're
here.
gonna find they're gonna find out.
Yeah, they're gonna know.
Yeah.
But it always came back to no, Tatiana, why are you doing this? There was a reason you are still here and you have a good idea. And so one thing that I started to build my confidence is if I was going into a meeting with a potential co-packer, someone that's been in the industry for decades, their dad built the co-packing, company and
Yeah.
whatnot. It's generations. And so I would do my research, so much research. I would be extra prepared. I would, study all the buzzwords and, if they had given interviews, I would know everything under the sun about you, your business, all your clients, whatnot. And so when I came to these conversations, I always found that I was very prepared where the first few moments of the conversation, people were like, oh, she comes from tech. Like, this is a cute little hobby for her. And then when I started really getting into it, getting to the weeds, and especially if it was a video call, I could see them just kind of sit a little back of, oh, she came to play. Like, she knows her stuff. And yes, it took a lot of time. And I still prepare for calls that way. But it's been really cool when I have conversations now and people said, honestly, Tatiana, it's refreshing speaking with you because we get a lot of people who come from this industry and they try to book meetings and they haven't done their homework or they forgot this and this hasn't been accounted for. They're like, whereas
You
you've
literally
done
showed
both
up.
our jobs.
You showed up.
Yeah,
You showed up.
yeah. So that's really, I think, has really been part of this, of building that confidence and of again thinking, no matter where you come from, yes, I don't come from beverage. I am a enthusiast. I'm a consumer. But it's doing your homework. It's showing up and saying, "Hey, I belong here as well." And you can't discount your whole career, all of your life experience because there's so many transferable skills.
Yeah.
Like I said, I came from sales. So now all of a sudden I'm cold calling on behalf of my own company. And that's so different, and it's
That's
cool.
it. That's a head.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a head screw right into self, right? Yeah.
Right.
Like talking open, like promoting oneself. Sometimes there's some blocks for people there.
100%. And yes. Yeah. And that's something I also got over. But also, you think about, I'm like, oh, well, this is scary. It's a big thing. You know, I'm nervous to talk to this person, but I need to talk to this person to get to that next step. And it's always a fantastic conversation. Again, always so inclusive, and people saying, hey, you know what? I'll introduce you to so-and-so, or this dream company I've always wanted to talk to. And so that, again, has helped build that confidence. But also that imposter syndrome is always there. I think no matter where you are in your career or whatnot, and building your company, what stage, I think people will always have that. A little bit of a paranoia, if you will, but I think that also keeps you on your toes. And it's been helpful.
I think channeled properly, it can be healthy, like any fear.
Yes,
or story.
Yes.
Story we tell ourselves, because arguably that's what it is. And I like what you said about, be prepared. But what I didn't hear was like, don't lie, don't pretend you're something else.
Correct.
But put yourself there because you did your research, you know the language, you're respecting that person by showing up, and also never underestimate another person's willingness to help. It blows me away. I should say it doesn't blow me away as much but I don't expect it. I'm just less surprised when it happens because, that person would never want to help me. I'm like, don't judge on their behalf. They probably do. Like we tell stories about what that person's, how they're going to react to us. It's rarely that way in my personal storytelling experience.
I 100% agree with you. And what I do now is every Friday I try and have a call with a new founder. I do Founder Fridays. And so,
Lovely.
For example, one of my dream companies who I look up to is Olay Margarita. And so I ended up through Allie, through our mutual friend, she actually connected me to one of the founders. And so that, I was so nervous to have that conversation. And we spoke for almost an hour. And it was an incredible conversation and incredibly helpful. And say, hey, if you need anything, you want to bounce ideas. And to your point of, I'm like, they don't want to talk to me. They don't care about me. They don't have time for me. And it was such an incredible conversation. So, I try to not get in my own way. And I've gotten much better at that.
Well said.
Yeah.
How about Founder Friday Funday podcast or conversation? I don't know. I feel there's an extra F in there. We've got an alliteration. That's super fun. I don't know. I love alliteration. My guilty pleasure. You get three letters in there. I don't know. Anyways, I digress. The marketer in me is like, what can we turn, Founder Friday Funday into something? I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure the to-do list is very, 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 very long. Okay, let's circle back. It's time to make your first batch. Is there commercial kitchens that do beverage? Like, you can find somebody who can like test kitchen it or lab style environment. I'm assuming those are one of those things that exist that the average person has no idea about because you're not in the space.
100%.
Okay,
so how this worked for me is I ended up working with a flavor team. So again, my background is business. I don't know the science of things. And so, but I do know the ideal consumer. That is the target audience for my beverage. And so I went to them and said, you know what? Hey, I don't know how you're going to do it. It's going to be real orange juice. It's going to be about 100 calories. When we launched, we were 110 calories. We're actually 90 calories now. It's going to be low sugar. And then ideally, a nice to have is gluten-free. And of course, it's going to obviously taste delicious.
It can't taste like shit. So, let's be blunt. It has to taste good.
Please.
Because we've all got the drink that has the low everythings and you drink it, you're like, this is terrible. Goodness. Give me a bit more sugar or something. I'll trade off to actually enjoy it.
I was like, it can't be that. If I'm putting my savings into this, it has to be delicious.
Yes, I have to want to drink it myself.
Exactly. I'm like, I want to be proud of this and I want to actually store this in my own fridge. Thank you.
Lovely. Awesome.
So with that, what they do is they'll create samples for you, send you cans, whatnot. But in terms of getting true market feedback, you have to do a bit of a trial run. And so not so much test kitchens. I think that's more like on the snacking side. They'll do smaller batches there. Yeah. And so what we had to do is I had signed with a small co-packer, which is very difficult to find when you're in this world. A small co-packer that, I think our first batch was maybe 5,000 cans. 5,000, or about 1,000 to 5,000 cans, which is still quite a bit. But in the grand scheme of things,
it fills up like one's garage fairly quickly or one's storage locker fairly quickly. Like it's not an insignificant. It's not 100 cans. It's 5,000 cans.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to perceive a pallet or how many pallets of cans you're dealing with here, right?
Oh my goodness. Oh, how that's grown.
Things start showing up in pallets. You have to deal with this thing on this pallet of whatever it is, right?
It's so funny. I think about our first production run to what we're producing now, which is about 40 to 50,000 cans, which is not
Nice.
that much when you compare to a White
Yeah.
Claw or,
Still
the
a lot
bigger
bigger
players.
than 1,000.
Yeah. And I remember that first run, I was so nervous. I'm like, this is so, it may as well be a million cans. It's so many. And so now I laugh and I'm like, yep, let's do another 40,000. We'll run it on Friday. Cool. We'll do another batch 3 weeks from now. And so it's funny to see that evolution. But going back to your question
First
of,
question: how many samples did you go through before you committed to something you felt good enough to get 5,000 cans?
oh my goodness, so many. I
Yeah.
had my parents at my condo every 3, 4 weeks doing tasting parties. It
Yep.
was a lot of back and forth. And because it was still COVID, typically you're supposed to go to the lab and you do tastings. We couldn't do that. So they would ship me unmarked boxes, very suspicious. The front desk was getting a little, I had to tell them what was happening. These big white boxes where there was just cans, no labels on the cans. Um, and so that would be coming to my front desk every few weeks. And then we'd try them and then we'd have to email, hey, can we take the carbonation down a little bit? Can we, the coloring isn't right there, isn't there yet? And but it was quite a process. It took a lot
Mhm.
of time. So a lot of iterations.
Did you bring in anyone who was? I have friends, often sommeliers, that their ability to unpack flavor versus mine. I like it. I don't like it. It's too sweet. It's too sour. It's too tart. And that's kind of where it stops. I don't get hints of green apple and buttery
Mm.
leaves in the forest in southern France, like some of them. Did you get anybody in that from that group? Being very broad sweeping with that, talking with that group of people to come
Yeah.
in to give you some more of the maybe deeper layers, or is that an area for you? Because you might not be but as an enthusiast, you might be a hobbyist in that area.
Very well put. So I'm not that strong in terms of tasting the big differences and whatnot, and I'm a terrible at wine tasting. So I
Okay,
actually had a very good friend of mine who he's come from the beverage world. He's done tons of tastings. He's worked in
nice.
lab teams. Co-founded a brewery. He's been through this whole shebang of activities,
Amazing.
and
Okay,
so that's
you've
someone.
got your
Yeah,
trusted resource. Excellent. Yeah, I was
yeah,
curious
yeah.
because there's often somebody alongside a mentor, a trusted friend, that is the difference maker. They can say, "No, you're not crazy. This is actually yes, you're on the right track," or "You're
Yes,
not," or "Hey, stop doing that. You're going to step on a landmine," kind of thing, right?
yes, 100%. So he's been fantastic.
Cool. Um, okay, so you get 5,000, and did they arrive at again? We're getting way too into the weeds here. I'm like, what do we do with this palette? So, how did you organize these tastings? Like, how did you get it out there into the community?
Yeah, great question. So I'll take a step back. So every year, so from 2020, every year I was applying to the LCBO. The
Okay.
application opens up in June. It's a huge process, as you'd imagine. And then you find out in August if you are going to be on shelves for the following year. I didn't get in for the first 3 years. So when we look at this point, I had lots of advisors, and one of them had said, Tatiana, you may never get in the LCBO. There are big brands who maybe get in 5 years later, 6 years. What you should do is go out west. It's a lower barrier to entry. They're a lot more welcoming. And then
We're a friendly bunch out here in Alberta.
you are. I'm a big fan.
Yeah,
And so they said, you
as
know
am
what?
I. Yeah.
Yeah, they said test it out there. If you get in, test it out. We'll do small sales, whatnot. And so for me, I said, okay, well, okay, so we'll just start applying out west. I didn't really know the process, and so again, going back to that sales background, started looking for distributors or teams that would sell beverages like mine. Started DMing across LinkedIn, whatnot, cold calling as one does, and had found an incredible team. They said, "Oh my goodness, we don't have mimosas out west. Tell us more." Flew down. They were actually one of them is based in Vancouver. Pitched his team, and they were like, "All right, let's do a trial. Let's move your product." And so
That
what had happened is,
kind of that easy. Not to diminish the
oh
effort and energy,
no, no,
but
no,
they're like, yeah, let's try it. Let's give it a go. Yeah, we're in if you are.
no, 100%. And I think about my journey, and it does sound quite easy, but then I think it's also being mindful of the product I was launching. If this was another vodka soda, I don't think they would have been as welcoming
Mm.
as they were. But the fact that
Back
there was no
to being
canned
different and not
mimosa.
already, yeah, a bit of a red ocean from the perspective of like, well, that's
Mm,
saturated, but someone else is okay. So like
yeah.
let's not overlook the value of a product well positioned as well, right?
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
So in those conversations, they said, okay, let's do a trial. And so that's where that aligned with those 5,000 cans or so. And so what they had done is kind of, it's pre-sales where they went across British Columbia and Alberta. So they'd chosen a few markets within both regions and started talking to bars, restaurants, liquor stores of just saying, hey, we have a new product. Are you going to pre-buy a case, which is 24, a case or two. And so we actually had, I think it was like 150 locations or brands had actually signed up ahead of time. And so we ended up moving quite a bit in a month, that first month of sales. And I did a small, Instagram campaign. We did some influencers, still quite small advertising, if you will. And it moved very quickly.
So that I'm curious, and I'm going to maybe ask you. I've heard stories of people in the booze business from all different levels. I think it was in spirits more so, about it being a bit of a shady business, that there's kickbacks and there's money needs to be paid. And, and if you're not at liberty to discuss any of these things, you can just give me a wink and a nod and we can not talk about it. But I've heard some stories that sounded pretty shady, and, those were years back, and maybe things are more regulated now. I don't know. But did you run into anything like that without naming names or just getting into too much detail?
Put me in the hot seat.
Yeah. No. Well, you're free to answer this question any way you like.
No, of course. So I haven't seen that, but I have, in the sense that, so in Ontario, the floodgates have opened in the sense that we can now sell canned beverages like mine in grocery, gas, and convenience. That was never the case. You could only buy at LCBO.
They're taking a page out of the Quebec market on that one.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah,
no comment.
Yeah, totally. I grew up in Quebec. You just go to the dépanneur and buy whatever you want. If you want hard liquor, you go to the SEQ. Otherwise, just literally go to the corner store. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Oh, what an easy life.
Yeah. Booze is treated a little bit differently in Quebec than it is in Ontario.
Yep,
But, growing up there, and you go to Ontario and you're like, what do you mean I can't just go to the store and buy 6 beers? Like, I don't understand. Yeah. But anyways, it's same, but totally different.
Yeah. But we're getting there. And so what I'm starting to see my sales team is saying is, certain larger brands are paying for shelving units in grocery stores, or a lot of other different kickbacks that, those particular stores or whatnot, are looking to Sunday Funday. Well, what can you guys do? And that's where I have a nice big laugh. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. This is a bootstrapped local business. Maybe in 5 years, I'll be in that position,
misunderstand my amazing brand and how big and global I look. That's not the case.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm glad that this perceived as such a large brand.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's my cat and I, and a lot of friends helping, whatnot, and contractors and whatnot. But so I'm starting to see that, and that's where I feel that push. Or even sometimes bars, they're like, oh, we'd love to have you as part of our brunch program. However, brand ABC is paying XYZ, and they're paying cash. They're doing this. What can you do? And I said, you know what? I don't even waste time of like, maybe I'm like, no, I actually can't compete. So sorry. We'll circle back. Yeah.
How much do you focus on, and I know that's a bigger game, and certainly from a funding, like, because you're dealing with ad dollars, trying to drive that pull strategy of getting the customers like asking for it, knowing that they want it, and getting that type of awareness out there. I know it's only been 4 years when it talks about that type of mass reach and just high level brand awareness. People are like, oh yeah, no, do you have that? Do you have that Mimosa product? Like when people start asking like that, where do you see that in the journey? And that can also be a very expensive endeavor as well.
Quite expensive.
Yes.
So what I want to give a lot of credit to my community and like my friends, my LinkedIn network. I think being as vocal as possible has been incredibly helpful because again, bootstrapped, I can only do so much advertising on Instagram. I can only be at so many events. It's also a very lean team, but also being at events and festivals, it is not cheap as a brand.
Yeah.
And so leaning on my network, especially when we launched in Ontario this March, really pushing friends to, hey, if you guys buy a can or two, do you mind posting on your stories on Instagram? Do you mind bringing it to your friend's barbecue? And friends are doing that to the point where they'll send me screenshots of friends of friends of friends, texting, hey, that mimosa that you brought to so-and-so's birthday, hey, this is actually really good. Tell her she did a great job and whatnot. And, starting to see the followers go up and like strangers sharing our posts and stories and tagging us. And it is quite a big endeavor. And I always remind people, when you go to the LCBO or even Alberta, you go to your, local liquor store, if you don't see us stocked, it does make a difference if you go to the team there and say, hey, do you have Sunday Funday? Because it's helps us stay top of mind. And what was cool when we launched in Ontario is all my friends, whatever region they were in, swarmed all the LCBOs, if we weren't on the shelves, asking for it. And it was cool because it came to a point where
the Sunday Funday Army.
Oh my God, I am so proud of them. It's just like a sea of orange.
That's amazing. I love it.
But a lot of staff starting to say, I keep hearing about this. Yes, that girl. Yeah, she's Canadian, right? And it was it is cool. So I can feel that it's starting to change, and that people are starting to recognize it, and people recognizing the brand. So, but it takes it's going to take a lot more time and
Yeah.
effort. But yeah,
You're on the
it's a
journey.
big
Yeah, you're
endeavor.
on the journey.
Hmm.
I look forward to, we've already just set up our next podcast in 2 years where we circle back to see
I
how
think
things,
so.
where things
I'd
are
love
at and
to.
how they're going. Talk to me a little bit about, like, let's get to the nuts and bolts of the business. Self-funded. Did you get some grant financing? Did you find
Hmm.
early stage angel family investors? However much you want to share, how have you got to here from a pure, like, it takes money to make the wheel turn, right?
100%. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, at the start of last year's, yes, we started with our 5,000 cans, but then we also started, again, getting ready for LCBO. If we got in, that's not cheap. You have to be ready to keep them happy. And
Well,
so,
this is when failure can kill you, but so can success, right? That's a very tricky balance.
yes, 100%. And so a lot of this was self-funded. Remember, I was about to buy a condo in the city. So that whole
Yeah.
down payment is now in tons of cans all across Canada. But then, of course, that only takes us so far. So the past April, I applied for funding from the BDC,
Okay.
and we got funding, which was fantastic. And by funding, I mean a loan, not
Yes.
free money.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
to
totally.
clarify,
Non-dilutive, but I have to pay it back, right? Let's be clear.
yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
we love
Yeah.
that. So I have that funding, and then in terms of investors, es- since we got a full-time listing at the LCBO, that's when I've really
Mm.
I think really gone full speed ahead with reaching out to investors or having those conversations, because for me, I have such a big vision for this brand. It's not a cheap endeavor, and so realizing, okay, before we take out another loan, like I am comfortable with bringing on the right investor, who also has that vision, maybe wants to get their hands dirty. So that's where we are right now, but we're also in a good place where the LCBO, you know, it's a good partnership, and they start their buying to kick off the drinking season, in spring. So that's starting
Yep.
to happen January, February. So we're good there. Alberta has also been very good to us, and we're gonna hopefully launch in our third region. We can't say yet.
Oh,
Next
okay.
year.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that will also help. Yep. Yep.
And from getting back to the right investor, is this a strategic investor that has beverage experience? Is this an investor that's in maybe a market you want to get into, maybe south of the border? And I've chatted to some individuals in the non-alcoholic space, and some of their second round money came from the US because that's also where they knew where they wanted to go. And how much does that play a part in terms, like, the right investor can mean a lot of things. One, do I like them? Can we get along?
Absolutely.
Can we work together? And
Yes.
then what other benefits do they bring to the table? Because a lot of people can write checks, but there's
Yep.
more to it than that, right?
100%. And that's what I realized too of what do I want in an investor, especially, it's my first business. This is my
Yep.
baby. But yeah, you absolutely nailed it. Of someone who ideally comes from the beverage world or CPG, someone that has an idea of the Canadian market and really not only launching something, but getting it to stick, getting it to become a household name. How do you build that? It's one thing to build a product, but I think nowadays it's so important. How do you build that community? People are so loyal about their brands. How do we build, like you said, Sunday Funday Army? I love that. It's just, again, I just picture people in orange swag all over the place. And so,
100%. The visual is instant.
yeah, thank you. So I love that, but it's also, you touched on it in my, several years from now, I do want to launch in the US. So having that strategic partner that's been there, done that, or has the connections that it's an email away, it's a call away. So already setting our future selves up for that. So that's what we keep in mind when having those conversations.
I appreciate that. Talk to me about how do you alcohol consumption on the decline. Certainly you see a lot of stats around that. A lot of, like, I look at my niece and nephew, both in their young 20s, they hardly drink at all. It's just a different relationship than maybe I was at that age or younger, maybe looking back on it. Quebec, everybody drank. It's just how it was. Like, you have a cigarette and a glass of wine at dinner when you're 6. I don't know.
Of course.
Okay, it's not that bad. But when you look at this beverage being gluten-free, low sugar, sub 90 calories, lower alcohol, only 4%, does it kind of split the difference on people drinking less, but people still wanting to have fun and have experiences? Like, are you playing kind of that middle ground a little bit, or that's my interpretation from over here?
I absolutely am. No, 100%. And especially when I was launching this, I think it was, again, 4 years ago, I think it was, we were just hearing about the low to no alcohol trend.
Yeah.
And so for me, again, enthusiast consumer, me playing in the non-alc space is not aligned. I do like my bevy now and then.
Yep.
But having something that's low alc, especially as I get older, I don't want to have, 2 drinks and then I'm kind of done. No, we can still have fun, we can still enjoy it, but also, still be in a place where we're like, okay, we're still in control. It's still a good time.
Yep.
I can have a few more.
My next 2 days isn't ruined.
Also that, my goodness. Don't have to cancel all my meetings. But it's funny you bring this up.
Those are not fun anymore.
No, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can see why the non-alc is such a trend.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because early days when I was starting to build this idea of this beverage, working with the flavor scientists, and I got so much pushback, Tyler, on Tatiana, it has to be 5%. That's the default elk. That's what you need to do. Remember, this is 2020. And I thought, well,
interesting. Yeah.
I actually don't agree. And because, again, predominantly my audience is women. And so we're fine with 4%. I'd rather have 5 mimosas than 3, if you know what I mean.
I do.
So,
I do.
Yeah. So it was interesting. And one of those things where I go back to imposter syndrome, but also trusting your gut. Because at the end of the day, this is as I say, my business baby. And I had to pull that line of, I'm paying you. I want my drink to be 4%. Don't worry about what you think is better. And again, I take all the advisors and advice I can, absolutely.
Yep. But sooner or later, though, you have to make the call. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to your comment, I am so grateful I pushed for the 4%, especially when we look at the last year. There's such
you intersected, right? That was like, to be at the right place, you got to plan now so you can intersect it later. Like you intersected that 4%, which makes the right differentiator. If I pick up 2 beverages, one's a vodka, whatever, and it's at 5 or 5.5 or whatever, and I see yours at 4, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I'll go with that one. Like those little decision making when you're standing in the aisle, they're so subtle and they're very real. But you're right, 4 years ago, it was one thing, but today I could see where 4%. Like to me, it just seems like it seems like the perfect number from the outside.
Oh, thank you so much. And what's been really cool is when I'm meeting consumers and we're doing tastings at events and whatnot, again, going back to predominantly women, a lot of women will say, oh my goodness, I just had a baby. And so I'm easing back into the alcohol world. And they said, thank God this is 4% because I used to love mimosas, but I also can't have a glass, half a glass of champagne, but this I will drink. And so hearing that has been so validating. So again, super grateful in that. And to your point, landing in the perfect position of that 4% where people who are like, I could have one drink. I'm leaning towards non-alc, but I'll never give it up. I'll never stop, but I could have a beverage here and there.
And I love, also you're dealing with female clientele. And, I grew up in the era, we were joking before we got on dubbed Kung Fu movies. There was also the era of kind of macho booze consumption. Like, oh, how high of a percentage are you drinking? Like, oh, you got the 7% Mozit or whatever, some of those beers that were terrible tasting, but your buddies would drink them because they were drinking higher alcohol. But in the female cohorts, you don't have that same kind of macho. No. So I think that's going away. Or maybe I'm just getting older and I don't hang out with those people anymore. Maybe those aren't my friends. But there was a time when, light beer or light alcohol was looked on as lesser than. Where now you've got non-alcohol over here, normal over here, but this middle ground, especially for a female clientele, to me is a perfect fit.
Thank you. No, absolutely.
Sorry, my armchair analysis from sitting over here, putting my own filter on it, because I love this dialogue. Because those are those decisions that are product market fit that you had to make early on. With maybe not all, you didn't have the money to do all the data and all the research and all the focus groups. You made a call because you understood your target audience.
No, 100%. And it goes back to also being lower calorie, being lower sugar. We were able to include gluten-free. And I see a lot of women being like, oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you. You know how hard it is to find something that doesn't taste like nothing, something that is low alc, something that's in my price point, on and on and on. But it was a lot of these decisions I had to make and a lot of pushback I had to give of, hey, I think I know my audience quite well. I am my audience. But it's trusting your gut and really leaning into it. And just starting to see it pay off now and really hearing those, just again, hearing from consumers of just hearing those thank yous of, wow, I have a beverage for me now, has been incredibly validating.
Oh, that's so powerful as a brand or as a positioning to see yourself reflected in that. And this is for me, you made this for me. That's gold from a marketing and branding perspective. I gotta love it.
Right.
I heard something, Kalea Carrington is an interesting character here in Alberta. She's so awesome, so dynamic. And she said once she made the mistake of falling in love with the problem, but forgetting to fall in love with the customer's version of the problem. She fell in love with her interpretation of it. And it was a heating solution. And the people that were actually using it, it was funny. It was this industrial solution for heating and planes on the runway. but they operated in the winter in -30 with big gloves on. But she made the product that you would be operated in a warehouse with no gloves on. So nobody could figure out how to use it. So they just wouldn't use it. Even though it ultimately, the executive was like, this is great. It's, a sustainable solution. She said it was a really hard lesson because she didn't get close enough to the actual end user. And she said, and it's just something always stuck with me of like, we're so quick to like, yeah, that's the problem I'm solving. Yeah. Is that your version of the problem, or is it actually the customers? And that rare moment where the two intersect is where the magic is. I think so. It's a bit of a different story, but that quote always sticks with me. Whenever I think I know something, I'm like, do I really know it from their perspective, not mine?
Yes. Oh my goodness, I love that. And it's funny, I think about that a lot because I guess when you're building something, you don't want to have those blinders. And I'm like, I'm on the right path. Like I'm doing all the great things. And so what I started doing is, obviously in the summer, we did lots of tastings in Alberta and Ontario. And if I'm able to work that tasting, which I try to do most of them, I will ask people, I'm like, what did you think? I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm a brand ambassador. What did you think of the brand? And you see people kind of like their walls fall down. They're like, oh, okay, here's my true feedback. And so that's been super helpful because people are going to tell the owner, yeah, like, oh, we hate this because they're like, yeah, it's good. But telling them a brand ambassador, I'm like, okay, so you perceive this brand this way, or, what do you think when you see this label? What comes to mind? And so I love that story though, because you have to be close to the consumer and that problem.
How do you manage filtering? You could be at a tasting and get, let's just say for fun, 30 of those exact conversations in the course of an afternoon at an event or some type of I can picture you at a folk fest. I can just picture you on the side of so many events that I go to. How do you then categorize and like process, like these are all feedback tickets. Let's go to tech. You got a ticket, right? Someone has put in a ticket that there's a bug somewhere, but there's 30 of them and they're all different. Yeah. How do you stay on top of that? And how do you like prioritize?
Ooh, great question. I think the biggest thing for me is when I'm getting feedback, it's understanding that person's perspective. Where's the feedback coming from? Is it feedback I can actually action on? And is it, financially realistic for us to change this recipe, add this, you should add that, we get a lot of, you should do this. I'm like, yes, I will.
Yeah, don't shit all over me, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we will write that one down. Thank you. But starting to separate, like there's some feedback we've gotten that I've heard a few times. I'm like, oh, okay, this is coming up. So people are, it's not just one person versus we've had, feedback we've never heard again, one-offs. And so it's really separating those of what's noise to what is, this is a topic we keep hearing.
Looking for patterns.
Yes. Thank you. So really pulling the data there and thinking about, okay, what can we do today maybe to slightly change course, lean into this, really unpack this data. So it's really, I think not getting emotional about feedback. So I remember I was doing my first tasting, and if I've had people, obviously, as we all
wasn't
do,
one of the 4 agreements, don't take it personally.
Yeah, people are like, oh, I don't want this anymore. Like, I don't like it. And to hear that first, I don't like it. I'm like, what do you mean?
Your baby's ugly. I will punch you right in your throat.
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, it's Tatiana, it's okay. This is part of it. But having to do that exercise of like, it's fine. I'm like, those 9 people loved it. But that one person, I'm like, but what could I have done better? But again, to change your whole idea for, to keep the smaller portion of people happy. And so being more mindful of like, what is that bigger picture? And are these changes or feedback or criticism, is it something you can action on? Does it make sense to? And again, just keeping it, back of mind. And just, keeping it all there.
Sometimes it goes into the suggestion box and it goes under advisement.
But
I really love, I think the biggest piece, like in those early stages, how do you not take it personally? When you're so personally invested, like you have to be personally invested or you wouldn't have the energy to do it, but don't take it personally. Be happy, but don't be sad. What? Like, what are you telling me to be here? Like, it's a bit of a roller coaster of that back to self-regulation.
Absolutely.
I'm a aspiring founder. I've got an idea. I have 3 patio doors filled with writing. From the outside, it looks like I'm a crazy person because you have to be crazy to be a founder, I think. And I say that as a compliment. But I've got a full-time job. Do I buy into the entrepreneur dream and put on my superhero cape and drop out of school or quit my job and be a founder because it's going to be awesome? And I'm sorry, I'm being very facetious even how I'm asking the question.
No.
Just talk to me a little bit, because I look at your background and your resume, and you did these things in parallel. And I think that's sometimes advice that maybe doesn't even get given, but that's misinterpreted of like, I'm going to go all in and it'll either work or it won't, versus being very strategic, how you birth these ideas back to your analogy about your baby?
No, I love this question. So thank you for asking, Tyler. And it's something that I try to sing from the rooftops if I can to anyone that will listen.
Nice.
When I started this idea, like I said, like day one, I was using my time between meetings of my day job to cold call and whatnot. And I did some, maybe 2 nights a week, and one night on the weekend I would put towards this in the early days. Now it's a lot more time, but I am grateful that I stuck to my guns and I stayed with my full-time job for 4 years or so. It was very hard to balance. However, I have seen founders who've given it all up, not given it all up in the sense of they've gone 110% into it, which is amazing.
Mhm.
But being realistic I live in Toronto. I live in a condo, single income household. Having that income, having benefits, little things like that, I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about, my next dental cleaning. That's not cheap when you don't have benefits.
Yeah.
Having, my rent's covered. I don't have anyone else to split those bills with. So that took so much pressure off. And I saw it as almost an exchange of, okay, yes, I'm working very long hours, balancing both, but I don't have that pressure of, if this doesn't work out, I'm out. Like this
Yeah.
is, if I'm all into my business, that's still very
You make it
early
harder in
days.
one way, time-wise, but you make it easier in other ways because
Yes.
you're mitigating risk. And the price you then pay is just you got to do a little bit more extra, but you don't have this like holy shit all the time. Like it's still a little
Yes.
bit, but maybe not as loud, not a megaphone in your ear.
No, 100%. And when you don't have that
Yeah.
megaphone in your ear, you can actually, I find that, you're still more creative. You take a lot more risks because it's not going to impact whether I have a home in 6
It's not
months or not.
it's not a life or death risk. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. So that's why I try to share with as many people. I said, please, whether you come from the industry or not that you want to go into, of this idea that you have, start small, start slow, build it slowly. Take your time. Do not rush into it. Please take your time. Talk to everybody and their mother. Get as much input and advice as you can. But do not be in a rush to do this full time until, you are making that income where you can be comfortable with it. But that's why I really try and share with people of, you can do both. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of work. But again, this is your baby. I love doing this. I don't mind that, the second part of my day started, at 5 p.m. And then I just, went into calls and meetings and this and that. I loved it. So that's also the difference of, you're going to put that work in, and that's okay because you know what you're building towards.
I think it is why sometimes passion gets so over-indexed in our society. Like, you have to be so passionate. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's always true. And I think it sets people up. But if you're not into the idea, you won't be able to put in the energy that's required to actually make it successful. So you can call it chasing your
Correct.
passion. If it's not something you're really curious about or really interested about, because then it kind of creates its own energy, I find. So then all of a sudden at 5 o'clock, you're like, I can't wait to be done so I can go work on this thing because I'm excited about it. If you don't
you
have
have
that,
momentum.
it just takes too much, right? It just takes too much.
100%. No, and that's why I also tell people, like, even if they're not sure about launching, their idea of, again, think of it as like a part-time idea. If you're 6 months down the road and you're like, oh, I actually don't want to launch a sock brand. I hate socks now. Hey, you didn't risk a lot. Cool. You tried that. You learned a bunch. Let's pivot. Let's do something else. Let's talk
And
about,
hypothetically, if you would have done everything that you did in 1 year at 6 months, what would you have not learned in that second 6 months that then influenced? Like, how much would it have been different? Because we can sit here talking all day, but you and I will talk next week and we'll both have learned something new because the time had passed. There is some value in that. So just, hypothetically, if all of a sudden you rush forward and someone threw money at you and you did everything in 6 months that took you a year in your timeline, how many other mistakes might have happened because you didn't have that extra learning time?
Oh, that's a great question. So many. Because when I'm strapped for budget, I mean, you're forced to be more creative and things take a lot longer. But to your point, other opportunities were come up that if I had rushed, I wouldn't have seen those.
Yeah, the
I wouldn't have
Copac
learned
chat
what I learned.
that changed your trajectory that you had because you were in the right place at the right time. Trying to hustle because you couldn't just throw $100,000 at it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're forced to learn. And I think it's a lot better too, because you're like, okay, now I feel this. See what's coming. I have a better idea of what I want to expect and what to build. But rushing into it, again, there's still things I look at my, competitors and I'm like, oh, they have 100,000 followers and this and that. Maybe we should be working with influencers. I'm like, Tatiana, that will come. They've also been around for like 7 years.
Yeah.
Slow down. So trying to also not get lost on what my end goal is and kind of what some of those maybe short-term goals that maybe aren't the best for the business right now.
How do you manage? I can just keep asking you questions. You're so great to
I love
talk
this.
to. that comparison, like, I saw posted today, like while I was wasting a few minutes of my day on Instagram, between cat videos that my friend Stacey sends me.
Love.
As long as I'm laughing, Instagram is good. If I'm getting fired up,
Same.
I unfollow that. I unfollow it. I'm like,
Same.
I just want to laugh, have a quick little study break, it's fine. But it was comparison is the thief of joy. And you made the conversation like, oh my God, my competitor has this. Wait, stop. What am I comparing myself to? Is that healthy? Can I learn from this, or am I just beating myself up? Like, how do you manage that? Because it's there all the time in our society. It's almost like marketers put it there just to get you to buy more shit, but that's a whole nother story.
100%. Yeah, that's another conversation.
I am one teeth whitening away from perfect life. I'm one vacation away. I'm one something away, right? As I compare myself to someone who must be happier than me because they have that thing, right?
Because they're posting and they're smiling in all their pictures and they look fantastic.
Completely, for
it's
sure.
all a
But
lie.
as business owners, we deal with that same shit. Like, for sure. I would say almost like can be a self-introspective toxic journey if you're not careful.
100%. And to your point, same thing, like when I love LinkedIn, but to a point where like I follow a lot of founders now and they're always posting their updates and I love it until all of a sudden it's a touch too much. And I'm like, well, wow, now I'm sad. Everybody's so much further than I am. They've launched in 7 regions and they're in the US.
Now I'm sad. It's so honest. I love that. It's so honest.
Yeah. And so when that happens, I'm like, Tatiana, turn it off. That's enough for today. But it's also, so it's that balance of at what point is that inspirational? And then what point does that become damaging where you now discount your whole journey and how far you've come. And you're like, I'm not there.
In one post that's probably to a certain degree, and no disrespect to anybody, contrived to be slightly
100%.
more shiny than it might be in real life, right?
100%. And that's one thing where my Founder Fridays I love so much because I talk to people and I call out moments of, you posted about this, or you guys launched, you sold your millionth can or whatever it may be. And then they always, it's always that moment, that big sigh. They're like, oh, to even get to that moment. And then they
Let me tell you what actually happened before that.
Yeah. They're like, oh, the facility was on fire, all these things. And so it is so nice to kind of come down to earth of what we see on social is never the case. And so those founder stories are always super helpful for me, and kind of balancing that, okay, is that the true story that they're telling us? And again, all their wins are 100%, fantastic. But it's like, Tatiana, don't forget the other parts that's happening behind the scenes. And then also reminding myself when I see like celebrity, beverage brands, I'm like, oh, must be nice, all these partnerships. And I'm like, Tatiana, this is George Clooney's brand. Relax. You are not there. And you
Ryan
probably
Reynolds,
won't
you can
get
think
there.
of them immediately in your mind, right? Because they're using that power that they have the awareness to then get that association to them. When they are their own influencer with their millions of followers. That's...
Millions
you
of
can be
dollars,
envious simply because it's like, that's amazing. It's like a superpower. It is a superpower the way they use it, right?
100%. But then being envious, I'm like, this is a waste of time. Tatiana, you can't compare yourself to Ryan Reynolds. Maybe one day, but no. So
you're pretty engaging. I don't know.
Thank you.
He's a pretty witty fellow, and he's very handsome. But I don't know. I think you check some boxes as well. I'm just gonna.
Sorry, Ryan.
Don't rule it out.
Absolutely not. And Canadian.
Fellow Canadian. I don't know. I wouldn't rule out something, you two crossing paths somewhere. I've chatted with you enough to know you can hold your own in any conversation.
Oh, I love that. Now you've put in the universe. Oh, thank you, Tyler.
I have. That was very deliberate. I'm like, I'm just going to keep shining this up a bit because who knows what's going to happen. Where do I find you? I was on your site. So just go to your website and just put in my my postal code, because Alberta and Ontario, obviously LCBO.
Yep.
So congratulations on that, by the way. Because when we met, I think that was still, you were talking about it, but it was happening. And it wasn't to the vim and vigor that you talked about it today. It felt like it was still, felt like there were still some variables at that point. But that was only in September. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, because the next month is when we got our full-time listing. So when you get in the LCBO.
So that was the transition. Okay,
yes.
Yeah, got it. Check.
So much change, even though it was a few months ago since we last spoke, but it feels like years.
I don't even know you
so much
anymore.
has happened.
I don't even know who you are.
I know. Lovely meeting you.
Yeah. Yes, it was. And yes, it is again. What?
Yeah.
It's never too late to meet someone for the first time. Isn't that I heard a great quote the other day. This is a Gabor Mate quote, completely going off.
Love him.
It's never too late to have a good childhood. I was like, what a great way to just talk about our ability to reframe things. And as founders, I think we get to we do that all the time. we reestablish or re-engage our relationship with, and also trauma plus time equals hilarity. So you look back like, oh my God, remember when that happened? That was hilarious. Meanwhile, at the moment you were like, should I jump off the balcony? Should I not? That's not funny.
Oh God,
I retract that. But we've all had those. My friend calls it like, you're only an entrepreneur when you've been on your kitchen floor crying about not being able to make some type of payment the next day. That's when you know you're really an entrepreneur. I'm like, oh dude, that sounds so harsh. But yet I can immediately think about a time that was pretty close to that. Not quite, but naked and crying on the kitchen floor. Sorry, all the founders wannabe founders are like, what's wrong with you two? I don't want to get into this. But it's like, the part of the journey that you hopefully will, if you survive it, you get to look back and laugh and go, I stayed in business. I learned the lesson. I took a bad hit. I changed direction. I pivoted, the word of the last 5 years, and all the things that come with being a founder is that when someone looks into you now and go, oh my God, you're so lucky. You're so fortunate to have created this brand, and you want to slap them for saying that. Let me tell you how lucky I am when I was doing X, Y, and Z.
Like, sit
That's
down.
why I love these
story
conversations.
time.
Yeah, exactly. Let me break it down for you. So I really enjoy your honesty, your vulnerability, and I absolutely love your energy. And this has been a really fun conversation.
No, likewise, Tyler. And I didn't even answer your question where you can find me. So we have drinksundayfunday.com. We also have our Instagram handle, drinksundayfunday. You can send us a DM. Also, if you want to shoot an email, hello@drinksundayfunday. Fun fact, that goes directly to me, so I will get that.
Amazing. I would encourage anyone to take advantage of that opportunity to connect with you.
Yeah, go for it. Yes, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for having me. I was so excited to chat today.
It's 5 years from now. I can buy this everywhere. It's all over North America. You've exited. You're flying around in your private jet, hanging out with celebrities. Give us a quick, what's it look like?
Oh, so you've seen my vision board then.
I don't know. I just, it's over your right shoulder. I'm just kind of peering into your compartment. No, not at all.
Yeah, no, that's it. So 5 years from now, the goal, household name, kind of like a White Claw, if you will. You know, Canada's darling
beverage. You said that one very
We're...
strategically at the beginning. I made a note at the top of my page with a little asterisk beside it.
Got you. Yeah. We have our full Mimosa Empire, so you can have multiple flavors if you'd like. Also in the US, ideally. And then, of course, exited. Fingers crossed over here.
Amazing.
And then working on my next venture. Still meeting celebrities and flying around the world, but I have a few other ideas. Yeah.
Amazing. The founder always has something else. I love it. Well, I love the Mimosa Empire supported by the army of enthusiasts. Like, I can see the whole story coming together.
We'll send you your swag.
I will wear it with pride. Absolutely. I'll be like a ray of sunshine as I enter the room, which is what your website is this morning on this dreary Alberta day. Tatiana, thank you so much for coming on. Great meeting you again for the second time, and really love what you do, and huge props. So thanks for coming on, and thanks for being honest with your story.
Thank you, Tyler. Much appreciated. And thank you for sharing the Sunday Funday story.